The FDA just reported 605 adverse events tied to compounded semaglutide and 545 tied to compounded tirzepatide. And they say those numbers are probably underreported. Now, on February 6th, the FDA announced that it's taking action against mass marketed compounding GLP-1 products, and they named names. But here's what most people are getting wrong. They did not say that all compounding is illegal. So what did they actually say? And what should you actually check? That's what this video is about. When people say compounded Ozempic, they could mean three completely different things. A legitimate compounded medication made under pharmacy compounding laws, that's one thing. A mass marketed copycat being sold like it's a generic, that's the second thing. And then the third thing is something that's outright illegal, fraudulent, or counterfeit. And those three have very different safety and legal realities. And by the way, just a quick disclaimer, this is educational only, not medical advice. I'm not talking about dosing. I'm talking about individualized treatment. I'm going to explain the decision framework that clinicians use and what the FDA is actually saying. Okay, first, what exactly happened with the FDA? So on February 6, 2026, the FDA published a statement saying they plan to restrict access to GLP-1 active pharmaceutical ingredients, the raw drug ingredients, when they're intended to be used in non-FDA approved compounded drugs that are being mass marketed as similar alternatives to the approved products. So in plain English, what does that mean? It means the FDA is aiming at the supply chain that feeds these mass marketed copycats. They also specifically called out misleading marketing. They said companies cannot claim that non-FDA approved compounded products are generic, or that they have the same active ingredient, or that they are clinically proven. So what did the FDA not say? They did not say all compounding is illegal. They did not say everyone on a compounded product is doing something wrong. And they did not say approved drugs are risk-free. This is about where the line is between legitimate compounding and unapproved mass manufacturing, and about basic safety and truth in advertising. The FDA has warned about dosing errors with compounded injectable semaglutide cases where people accidentally took 5 to 20 times the intended dose, according to the FDA's safety alert. And some required medical attention or hospitalization. They've warned that some products sold as semaglutide may actually be salt forms like semaglutide sodium or semaglutide acetate, which the FDA says are different active ingredients than the base form used in the FDA-approved drugs, and they're not aware of a lawful basis for those salts to be used in compounding. And on their GLP-1 safety page, the FDA reports that as of July 31st, 2025, they had received 605 adverse event reports tied to compounded semaglutide and 545 tied to compounded tirzepatide. And they also point out that these are likely underreported because many pharmacies are not required to submit adverse events. The FDA has also taken action at the border. They created an import alert to green list intended to stop GLP-1 active ingredients with potential quality concerns from entering the U.S. supply chain. And importantly, they also clarify that this import alert does not apply to GLP-1 active ingredient manufacturers that appear to be in compliance with FDA manufacturing standards. So the FDA's position is basically this space has real risks, and we're going after the parts that look like unapproved mass manufacturing and deceptive marketing. Now let's define compounded, because this is where the internet gets it wrong. Compounding is when a licensed pharmacy, or in some cases, a licensed clinician, prepares a medication for a specific patient when that patient's medical needs can't be met by an available FDA-approved product, or the approved product isn't commercially available. And the FDA's general stance is that compounded drugs should only be used when a patient's medical needs can't be met by an FDA-approved drug. but compounded drugs are not FDA approved. The FDA does not review them for safety, effectiveness, or quality before they're marketed. And in the United States, you'll hear two common regulatory buckets: 503A pharmacies, traditionally patient-specific compounding based on a valid prescription for an identified patient. And then there's 503B, outsourcing facilities. These are facilities that register with the FDA, and they must follow current good practice standards and are inspected on a risk-based schedule. You don't need to memorize that. Just remember, compounded doesn't automatically mean safe or unsafe. The safety depends on the pharmacy, the quality systems, and the clinical oversight. Now, let's talk about what makes compounded Ozempic risky and when it may be more defensible. Ingredient plus source plus cold chain plus dosing system plus clinician oversight equals your risk profile. I think about this in 5 clinical questions. Question 1, what exactly is the active ingredient? Is it semaglutide base, or is it a salt form being passed off as equivalent? Because from a clinical risk standpoint, salt form is a big red flag that needs clarification. Question 2, where is it coming from, and can that be verified? The FDA has warned about fraudulent compounded GLP-1 products with false labels, including labels named pharmacies that don't exist, or real pharmacies that didn't actually compound that product. So a label exists isn't enough. The source has to be real. Okay, question 3, is the cold chain and storage handled correctly? Injectable GLP-1 medications require refrigeration, and the FDA has received complaints about compounded products arriving warm or with inadequate ice packs. That really matters for quality. Question 4, does the dosing system minimize errors? FDA-approved injectables are in standardized pens. Many compounded products are in multi-dose vials with syringes with variable concentrations. And this is exactly how people end up unintentionally taking far more than intended. Okay, question 5. What does clinician oversight actually look like? Not a checkout page. I mean, a real medical evaluation, a risk discussion, side effect plan, and follow-up plan. Because the most dangerous pattern in this whole space is when the medication becomes a transaction instead of a medical care. Now, let's hit the safety piece, because this is where people either minimize too much or panic too much. GLP-1 medications as a class can cause nausea, vomiting, constipation, diarrhea, abdominal discomfort. And that can happen with FDA-approved products too, whether it's Mounjaro or Zepbound or Ozempic. What changes urgency is severity and pattern. In clinical medicine, these patterns warrant urgent evaluation. Persistent vomiting where hydration can't be maintained. Severe or worsened abdominal pain, especially with repeated vomiting. Signs of dehydration, fainting, severe dizziness, very low urine output, a severe allergic type reaction, having swelling or trouble breathing, or widespread hives, or a rapidly worsening injection site reaction with spreading redness, significant pain, or fever, because infection and tissue injury have to be considered. And that's not fear, that's red flag mental checklist. Now, 5 fast myths that are driving bad decisions. Myth number 1, compounded Ozempic is just generic Ozempic. No, generic has a specific FDA meaning. Compounded products are not FDA-approved generics. Myth number 2, if it says semaglutide, it must be the same thing. Not necessarily. The FDA has warned about salt forms and other non-equivalent ingredients being used. Myth number 3, if they add B12, it's automatically better. The FDA has noted some compounders add ingredients like vitamin B12, B6, carnitine, or NAD, and the safety and effectiveness of combining semaglutide with other ingredients has not been established. Added ingredients are another variable, not automatically a benefit. Myth number 4, If it's online and popular, it must be legit. The FDA has specifically warned about illegal online sales and products falsely labeled for research purposes, not for human consumption. So when it's labeled with for research purposes or not for human consumption, and it's being sold with human dosing instructions, that's a major red flag. Okay, myth number 5. Newer peptides are just the next Ozempic. The FDA has stated that some substances being sold online, like retatrutide or cagrilintide, cannot legally be used in compounding under federal law and are not components of FDA-approved drugs. Here are the questions that I would want answered by a prescribing clinician in the pharmacy before I'm comfortable calling something structured medical care instead of internet commerce. Question number 1, what is the active ingredient form being used? Number 2, is the pharmacy state licensed? And does the label clearly identify the pharmacy and address? 3, is this a 503A patient-specific compounding pharmacy or a registered 503B outsourcing facility product? Question 4, what is the refrigeration and shipping process? And what's the protocol if it arrives warm? Question 5, what is the concentration and how is the dose communicated in a way that reduces confusion? Question 6, what are the side effects that could be expected and what are the red flags that change urgency? Question 7, what is the follow-up plan and what happens if side effects or quality issues occur? If those questions get clear, confident answers, the risk goes down. If those questions get vague answers, risk goes up. Also, who is the clinician? Is it a physician assistant? Is it a nurse practitioner? Is it a physician? Is it a physician who's board certified in obesity medicine? All these things matter. And are you able to communicate with that clinician? If you have questions, can you ask them if something goes wrong? So these are all very important things. Don't just say, okay, get me the medication and I want to lose weight and that's it. Okay, big picture here. This whole debate exists because demand is massive. Supply and insurance coverage have been inconsistent and prices are often out of reach. So patients look for alternatives. The FDA's job is to protect the drug supply and draw the line between legitimate compounding and unapproved mass-marketed copies. The clinician's job is to protect patients with honest risk discussion and safety systems, regardless of which path is chosen. So here's the bottom line. Compounded Ozempic is not one thing. It's a spectrum. Legitimate compounding can serve a medical need, but it's not FDA approved and it demands stronger safety checks. Mass-marketed copycats and illegal online products carry very different risks. And in February of 2026, the FDA made it clear they're tightening enforcement around the mass-marketed side of this space, including the supply chain that makes it possible. If you have questions, click on the link below.